Okie doke. All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Happy April, new quarter, new season, all of that good stuff. I am Lynnette Astaire. I am a plant-based chef, founder, advisor in the food and wellness space. I'm based here in Los Angeles, and yeah, I'm really excited to go over everything here, a little bit about my experience. So, I'm the founder of Superfood School. We help people of all diets to get more plants on their plates deliciously, affordably, and just easily. And I also do catering. I have a catering company, and I also do a lot of private chefing, and also just really working on advising and creative for a lot of different businesses because I have a really unique skill set that I am so excited to share with you guys my experience. So my background is not core in culinary, actually. I have a degree in fine art. So I've worked a lot in the creative space before I got into food fully with a lot of, advertising, a lot of different businesses. It was more on the commercial aspect as opposed to, okay, doing things for museums. So I've been able to take that experience of just creative, which obviously is a overarching theme for, branding, marketing, networking, what I like to call vibes. And I've also studied at Cornell Business. So I've been able to put those two things together along with the experience that I've had hands-on with startups and with food and wellness here in LA to be able to, yeah, just come up with a great, just unicorn offer for people to really use both sides of your brain to just make your business and just your life come together. So without further ado, we can go ahead and get started. The first thing that I'd like to do is for everyone to introduce themselves and just quickly let us know about their business, because what I'd like to do is to customize this presentation today as much as possible to be able to give you guys as many actionable steps and just, one-on-one hands-on information to be able to help you guys as you continue with your business. So we can get started with, let's see who we have here. The first person, we can go in order. I think the order is the same for Zooms, but I see Jasmine at the top of my screen. So go ahead, start with Jasmine. Hi.
Hello, Lynnette. I'm Jasmine, and my business is called Third Gen, and it is Caribbean-inspired spices and condiments.
All
So,
right,
like a
perfect.
little, just background about that really quickly is like I'm from New
Yeah.
York, from Caribbean, Caribbean descent. So I live in LA now, and I kind of felt like there was like a void of that here. So I wanted to kind of bring that energy over here, and that's what inspired that line of
Okay,
sauces.
perfect. Actually, that's a great format that Jasmine just added that. So yeah, just let us know, obviously, the name of your company and, what it provides. And then also your why, because that's really the big part of the branding and marketing and the story. So just a quick thing for your why. So that's a great example, great start. Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so next, B. McKinney.
Hi, I'm Belinda McKinney, Heaven and Earth, owner of Heaven and Earth Purpose Kitchen, and it's teetered into the vegan space. So I am a chef. I have a culinary background, and I also do catering and personal chefing and things like that. So I worked in the corporate field and now just doing my own thing. I'm emphasizing vegan and also alkaline meals, and just wanted to bring, as you mentioned, like just healthier options to the plate, but into our communities that lack those opportunities, and making it affordable as well. And it's also more of an educational, because I'm finding as I speak with people about different foods, a lot of people just are not educated about fruits and vegetables and how they support our body and function. So I often get well, does it taste good? How's it going to taste? That type of thing. So it's just that education, because I had to be educated myself when I went into this, even though I went to school, but I was a meat and potato person too. So when
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, you can have tofu, get out of my face. That was my thing. But when I started, meeting more clients in the corporate arena, I had to educate myself so I can be a better service to them. So thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. So from corporate to community, I love it. All right. So next we've got Tracy Thomas. Hey, Tracy.
How are you, Lynnette? My name is Tracy, and I am a cookie baker. Full-time, I work in student affairs and DEI work. And my why is that baking, like, it is creative for me. It's a nice outlet, and it really is a form of self-care. Is sort of why. And I want to have a side hustle. I enjoy my full-time work, but I'd love to launch a business.
Nice. Thank you so much, Tracy. All right, Beatrice, you are up next.
Hello there. All right, so my name is Beatrice Tasha Magana, and I currently go by Cutie's Kitchen. That is not the name I'll go by for my business. I have 3 names I'm working under, but I'm going to be careful and to share that. But I'm a plant-based, community-based, wholesome crafted food. So I'm a culinary student, baking student, and restaurant management student. I'll be graduating next year. And the goal is to open a very small, humble cafe in Boyle Heights. But I do want to also work on building an influence on Instagram, and I go under Cutie's Kitchen for that. And then segue into a product line for plant-based pies, savory and sweet, and also have a small community cafe. In the future, my goal would be to have a venue for the community, and that would be teaching classes on plant-based, housing for youth and homeless, and then in the evening it'd be a full-on venue. So, but focused on plant-based, herbs, healing, food healing, all of that stuff. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Got it. Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, let's see who we've got. Okay, Maria. Maria, hey.
Maria is actually part of CLA.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Oh, you said
Okay.
that earlier. It slipped my
Well,
mind
that's
that quick.
Maria.
Hey, Maria.
Hi, good morning.
Emiko.
Hi, Lynnette. Good morning. My name is Emiko. I moved from Japan 4 years ago, and before that, I was working for the big company and not doing any food business. But because I came here, and this is like new life, and I feel like I want to do something else. So my business is having a opening the cafe with a Japanese fluffy pancake, which is like cakey and fluffy pancake, together with some other food mixture with other different cultures. And I haven't decided my restaurant cafe's name yet, but because this, then thank you. Thanks to this session, I'm learning many things, and I feel like I'm just starting status, so everything is so excited. So sorry, I'm so nervous today.
It's all good. You're here and you're in a good place, and I'm sure you will walk away with some good gems to continue. So yeah, welcome. And yeah. So let's see who we have. I think we've got one more person. Janet, hey.
Hi, good morning. My name is Janet Kim. My company name for the time being is called Kimjang, and we are developing a product, an ingredient that is used as a base to make your own kimchi at home. There are not, in addition to the ingredient, the product, which is premium gochugaru, which is a red pepper from Korea, and premium ingredients that you use as the space. It's, you know, used as like 90% of the kimchi recipes that are developed use all of these base ingredients. And so the idea is that you're able to customize it to make your own and create your own type of kimchi at home, because there are so many different types of recipes. In addition to the actual product, there's actually a digital aspect to it, which is providing content and recipes for people to learn how to ferment vegetables at home and how to use either local ingredients or seasonal ingredients or, you know, market-driven ingredients to make kimchi with.
All right.
My why is,
Sweet.
yeah, aspiring entrepreneur. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Always been an aspiring entrepreneur, and I've been in the food and beverage industry all of my career. So I think it's time to kind of branch out to working for others and finally working for myself.
Okay. All right. I think that's everyone, Maybelline. Yes, we've got 6.
Yes.
We are at 6. Okay. Awesome. This was great. I'm already seeing just some different types of magical coincidences that we can chat about. So branding, marketing, networking. I also like to use the word vibes because that's like the big Gen Z word now. And really it makes a lot of sense because everything is vibration, everything, you know, we're taking in subconsciously. And I think that's a huge thing to think about when you're talking about branding, right? Because all of these things are hitting a person to make this split-second decision, which is an emotional decision on how they're going to work with you or how they're going to purchase your product, et cetera. So really, once, you know, as we go through this process, really think about the emotions, really think about the inside. I know it's very woo-woo, but literally these are the things that are running in the background when people are making decisions about everything. So always, you know, put that first. And so your vibration and your energy is what comes out through the logo, through the product, through everything. You are the beginning of it. So let's hop into the first slides. I just hopped into this a little bit. Marketing, it's for business. Branding is for customers. That's a huge thing because when you hear these words together, usually it comes together, marketing and branding, and it can be a little bit of a gray area, but very specifically, marketing is for the business and the branding is for the customers. Again, that branding, those are those vibes, those are those energies, those are those things that really get people to build the trust and the brand loyalty and continue to, you know, work with you and, you know, support your product. And then marketing, you know, it influences customers' immediate response to buy, as opposed to branding, which influences the buying decisions by leaving an impact. So you're looking at 2 different things when you talk about marketing and branding. You're looking at that short, immediate gain, and then the branding is that long game. Because for those that are already, you know, deep into your products, there's already been a lot of ebbs and flows. And so what's really important about branding is that your customers, your viewers, everyone that's getting your impressions, they're getting that emotional connection to be with you for the ups and downs. And that's really important because it might not be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, you know? So when that MVP is out, and which is the minimum viable product, just get it out there and get it going. It's like, oh, wow, this is good. It could use a little bit of salt. Or this is good, well, the packaging is weird, or maybe the price is different. All these different things come into play. But when your branding is really strong, people will continue to support you in different ways because they like the mission, they like the energy, they like the vibe. So it's really important to keep that going because your product, especially in the beginning, it's going to be a lot of ebbs and flows. And it might not be the best thing at that moment for someone. So you really want to go back to those good vibes to be able to keep the ship afloat and to keep everyone just having good feelings about you. Next, branding. So here's just a 3-step process on how it really works. And step 1 is understanding where you come from is paramount to understanding where you're going. And I think a lot of times when we when we start thinking about what we want to do, what our plans are, sometimes the end game and the end goal can be a little bit intimidating. And I know for me, sometimes it could be a little, oh, well, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. It doesn't matter. Find a true north, whatever true north internally feels really good for you in that moment, and then be able to work from there. You know, any plan is better than no plan, because sometimes creating a plan, you end up figuring out what you don't want. And sometimes you don't know exactly what you do want, but when you're understanding where you come from and you have some type of plan, you have some type of roadmap, any type of goal, even if it's to say like, hey, I want to exit within 4 years and I want this much and that much, or, oh, I want to do this and start a family, whatever along the lines of that, it's something that you could work from and then start to iterate as things come along, because there's so many different opportunities. There's so many different pivots that happen in life in general, you know? So you have that and you move from there. So that is so much bigger than the business. Again, it's about your internal vibe, internally, who you are as a person. And, you know, when you're thinking about that, writing down, you know, your personal goals, your personal, you know, your personal plan and how that needs to run paramount, especially as female founders. You know, there's always opportunities, you know, for people to second guess for various reasons. A lot of it has to do with, you know, with family, or the plans for the family, or the obligations to the family, or the obligations to other things. And so it's really important to have that straight up, so then you could start moving in lockstep with the business, and it's easier to iterate. Step 2, brand credo, history, identity, philosophy. All of these things will continue to grow. You know, what is a brand ethos? A lot of times that is in alignment. It should be in alignment with just who you are and what your personal ethos is, because here's the big thing. You really need to be in tune and in line with that mission and with that ethos, and something that you're really passionate about, because when the hard times come, those are the only things you're going to be able to rely on, right? So if you're just like, oh, I'm just going to do this for money, yeah, that's cool, but that's really not good enough, because when the money's not there, or the money's funny, or you're waiting on money, you don't have that North Star of just that good, energetic passion for what you're doing that's going to push you through the long nights and through the hard times. So it's a really, really, really big important thing to really understand like what your why is and what that credo and history, and really lock into the passion on really why you're doing this. Why should it exist? What do you stand for? What you don't stand for? Again, if you're not too sure of what you want, a lot of times people are really sure about what they don't want. So build from there, and then you'll be able to kind of iterate more on what works. Step 3, super important. Who are you talking to? Your ideal customer profile and that archetype creation. A lot of times we have these big goals and these big ideas, like, we want it for everybody, but things are not going to be for everyone. And when you really think about the grand scheme of things, when you get into like the numbers and the percentage of the market share that you can have for a product, it's pretty impossible to just have everyone come to you. And you really don't want that, because you likely don't have the bandwidth, the resources, the staff. And then what ends up happening, you know, when you're all over the place, you're not talking to anybody because you're talking to everyone. And again, it's about that emotional. You need to really hit that pain point and that pleasure point for someone to really lock into your brand. So really getting that create that archetype creation is important. So it kind of goes back to, again, knowing who you are and knowing what you stand for. And on the other end of the spectrum, on that other end of that transaction, then the next thing is, who is that person that you're talking to? That should be just as clear as who you are. So that archetype is really, really important. Brand ID, the visuals, that's always my favorite part. And for a lot of folks, that's the easiest part, right? Because you just know what you want things to look like, or, you know, you've already kind of imagined things. So naming absolutely is an intense process, but very, very, very important. And it's interesting because a few of you guys, Beatrice, she's like, it's Cutie Kitchens right now, but it's going to be something else. And, you know, that's really what it comes down to. Names change a lot. You know, I have some folks that are in Erewhon, and, you know, they've already had to change their names for something. And it's really important to pick a name once you really get further out there and stick with it. But in the beginning, play around with the names. I think a really great resource right now is AI to come up with names. I've kind of played with that a little bit with ChatGPT. That's a, a whole nother story. But again, finding the name that really works. Thinking about your upbringing, again, thinking about the passion, thinking about the product, thinking about the long game, also thinking about how you want to expand, so for example, a few of you all, you want to start, again, Beatrice is a great example where, she wants to do venues, she wants to do other products, it's this entire lineup of things. So when you think about that, you got to really think about the big picture of how does this name encompass everything? Or if you don't really know how you're going to move forward, then the next question is, how is this distinct enough and strong enough? But then you leave a little bit of a gray area to where you can then expand into it. So you don't want it necessarily so specific. So for example, for Jasmine's product, she's got spices and condiments. I'm just going to throw out a name where I'm not going to use third gen. Maybe it's something because it's Jasmine spices. Okay, that's cool. But then a year or two or some from now, there may be an opportunity to where, wow, I didn't know that I wanted to expand this into an actual cafe or something like that. Or, and it might not necessarily blend. So you don't want to be too specific, but then you don't want to be too vague. You want to really hit that sweet spot for the now, and then also leave a little bit of room for the growth. Taglines, one-liners, brand bio, founder bios, super important. For me, for the brand bios and founder bios, usually I put together 3. So the first one, actually 4. So that first one is the tagline. So for example, for Superfood School, it is more plants on your plate, all diets welcome. Really easy. We want more plants on everyone's plate. But in specific, again, we're speaking to the specific customer, all diets welcome. That's a really big, important thing for plant-based. And I know that I think Belinda mentioned that, where a lot of people, they want to eat healthier, they don't have the education, the background, and they, oh my gosh, this tofu is not going to taste a certain way. All diets welcome throws down those barriers for everyone, because we all know that the foundation of a healthy diet is fresh fruits and vegetables and plant-based, etc. So it removes that potential obstacle for your potential customer to put up excuses, right? Because everyone's looking for a way to not necessarily change their behavior, even if it's for the better. A lot of times we stay in all types of professional and personal relationships that may not be for the best for us, but it's the comfort, so you want to get someone into a new comfort zone, outside of their comfort zone, into something that works. So that tagline is super important. It needs to be super specific. It's just as important as your name, the tagline and the one-liner, because that's the next thing that's going to be under it, and that needs to be throughout all of your branding. Your brand bio and founder bios. For me, what I like to do is I have about 3 of these, because when you really get into just media requests, grants, different types of applications, they're all going to require slightly different things. So for example, you want to make sure that you've just got that 1 or 2 sentence and you already have it ready, copy, paste, get it out. Then some people are going to look for like a paragraph. And then for your website or for any other media or for potential interviews and press and coverage and all that, you want to be able to put the who's, the what's, the why's, that origin story into about maybe 2 to 3 solid paragraphs, right? But you want to be able to have those all in different formats. So again, that really quick one, that kind of sort of quick one, and then that long one, and then just have it like I just have a file that just says grant pitch, different ones. And sometimes you can get a little bit more granular depending upon obviously what your goals are, but in general just have those 3. But yeah, again, the brand name's the first impression, the tagline is the handshake, and the one-liner is a deeper dive. So the same way that this has been broken down, taglines, one-liners, brand bios, go ahead and break those 3 down in that same way within the brand bio and the founder bio. It is your brand's voice. And then also it's just the vocabulary around visual. So you want to make sure that all of these things are speaking into the idea of what you want your ideal customer to be able to just bring up those images and bring up that feeling. Again, all diets welcome. The person's like, oh my gosh, okay, I can do this. I can do this. You know, what are those little things? Let's see here. Next, logo. Branding guides, domains, landing pages, newsletter templates, social media strategy. These are the visual homes for your brand. I will say this, coming just from a art and visual design background, definitely get it done. But be sure not to go too crazy, because a lot of times people focus so much on just what something looks like, when you've seen good products out there that has really bad branding. It can't last for long. You have to have everything together, but the product is the most important thing. So sitting and pontificating over and over and over about just what something looks like, as opposed to what something tastes like, you know, especially in the beginning when we are strapped for time and for cash, just make sure that you get that visual, but make sure that that product is just as good as the visual, and ideally better. Newsletter templates. When it comes to social media and things, you want to really try to make sure that everything is across the line, like along the line. So one of the things that I suggest people do also when they're thinking of names is to go into the trademark section, the USTPO. I'm sure we can send a resource for that. And you go into tests, which is just the trademark section, and it'll give you variations on your name, potentially, maybe not, based on what people have already registered with trademarks. Some of them are expired. That might even be something you want to pick up, because if it's expired, you can go ahead and pick it up. So you kind of start there just on a legal perspective to see, you know, what logos, what brand names, what are working, what's coming into play, right? So you can kind of see things coming. And then from there, obviously go into www.com. I know there's a lot of .net, .co, .this, .that, and that'll continue to grow. But right now, in the generations that we have at this moment, .com is ideally the one that you want to secure the most. If you can get the .net and get variations on things, for example, I've got a catering company that is dedicated to vegan tacos. So it's jackedtacos.com, but I also got Jacked Tacos, you know, because you never know what people are typing in. And then also, once your brand and everything starts to really grow, Google and SEO, they're going to be able to start to pick up variations. So you want to keep in mind where people are spelling things wrong and making sure that all of that gets to you. So keep that in mind. Let's see what else. Social media. That's another thing that's almost as important as the trademark. Really going through all of the different social media channels that you plan on using and seeing if your name or a variation of your name is available. Because at the end of the day, when we're out, when we're networking, and we'll get to that in a second, a lot of people are just like, what's your Insta? What's your IG? You know, so you don't want to make it too complicated, and you just want to make it just as easy as possible, but a lot of times it might not be possible to do that. So start to think about the variations and stuff of how you can make it as fluid as possible across the board. Let's see here. Next, marketing. Effective marketing is about building trust, sharing your values with customers so they feel like they're part of something bigger than just buying your product or service. Again, emotion is super important. It's just like any other relationship that you have. It's like dating, you know, it's the courting process. And you know, the study says that it takes about 7 impressions through advertising, through word of mouth, through other things, for people to really start to feel an emotional connection to their brand, unless they have what marketers like to call a bleeding neck. But that's a completely different story. But if they have it's a bleeding neck where it's like, oh my God, I need a solution right now, that's more of an emergency, they're going to figure out really quickly. But over time, you know, a long-term product, you know, product lines, different things that you want to do, as things change and move, again, that inner North Star is what is going to help to build the trust and share the values. Let's see here. Understanding your target market. Yeah, this is literally everything. It's everything. It's everything. It's everything. When you're trying to market your business, you must know who you're targeting. And that avatar, again, the avatar for yourself and that avatar for who that fictional person is, what they wear, what they like to listen to, what type of house that they would buy. One of the things that I like to do when I work one-on-one with folks for branding is to create like Pinterest boards. That's a really cool way of doing it. And this is something that you can obviously do on your own to create that avatar. And Pinterest is the best out of all of the other social media channels because you can kind of look at it. You know, it's like this whiteboard. So it's just like, this is the type of thing that they would wear and that they would buy, or, you know, the other foods, the other, you know, competitors. All of this comes into play because as you're creating your product and as you're creating these messages and you're creating these new advertisements, as you're working on social media, for example, if you really got that avatar dialed in, for example, maybe you're doing, I don't know, think for example, Sakara. If you guys are familiar with Sakara, Sakara is a plant-based meal delivery service. It's more geared toward women and it's not cheap. It's beautifully packaged and designed, but I can guarantee on their avatar is probably a woman in like Lululemon or like Aloe Yoga or something along the lines of that. So when you really have your avatar dialed in, you can then say like, hey, you know what? Let's do something with social media today, but put her in Lululemon because we know that's going to talk to the Sakara brand. Or, oh, maybe it's a specific type of car. Put her in a Tesla. Or maybe it's not something that's so luxury where it's like, then you have to also think about making sure that it's not too aspirational. Again, finding that point, you know, maybe for you in your life, okay, it's a lot of luxury, a lot of this, a lot of that. But then for the customer and what you're doing, maybe it's for someone that's a little bit more budget minded. So you think about, maybe I shouldn't shoot this in my kitchen if I really have a nice kitchen. Or maybe, you know, you're finding these ways to be able to attract the person that's like, wow, it's very relatable. Relatable is really that word. That's super important. So very hone in the specificness, the perfume that they've listened to, the music, because you can use all of this in your marketing and in all of your social media. You can just have like a list of those things and you know exactly what they're going to look like and what they're going to talk like. It even look for memes. Think about the humor of your market. Think about the real talk of your market. Maybe there's some inspirational things. All of that comes into the play with the inside, the out, the psyche, all of that. Let's see here, what's next? All right, how do they like to be communicated with? Again, social media platforms, newsletters, flyers, posters. It really is going to come down to exactly what type of product and business that you have. And then also, again, what is your North Star? Right now, you know, this is more of like a local conversation. A lot of you all, obviously, you guys are based here, and, you know, some of these products and services that you have are more local based. But again, think about expansion and think about, you know, what could happen if it is a national product or even a global product. And all of those things come down to exactly how you're going to communicate with them. So for example, if you're doing flyers or posters, if everything is based online for the most part, that might not necessarily be the best thing for you. But if you have a brick and mortar, then obviously there's going to be something to where you're going to want to have that in the space, or you're going to want to have this media to be able to go out because you need that volume. You know, you go to the food festival, hand them out, hand them out, hand them out. It's a different way. But if you have, for example, Jasmine, she's got, you know, the spices and condiments, that's not a brick and mortar. So maybe she needs to focus more on the social media platforms and the newsletters because her products can ship and go anywhere. So you're looking more for that volume to turn over, like, hey, we need to just get it out as much as possible. So, and then for other people, they've got to use everything. And that would be more for like the brick and mortar folks. What form of marketing is accessible to your avatar? Again, it creates an interactive experiences, both online and in person. that are fun and memorable. Your audience wants to feel validated by your brand. Create a social media strategy that speaks to your audience. Give it a heartbeat. Your page should look and feel inviting to your audience. Again, it's like your home. You know, come on in, check it out, see what's going on. This is the smells, the things, the thoughts, the ideas. That's why visuals are really, really, really important. And in social media, I know reels have been pushed a lot. When I worked with the season cohort last year, we really worked on the importance of reels. And even though they can be a little intimidating for folks, it's really great because it gives an opportunity to give a true heartbeat. That's the great thing about video. It's literally giving a heartbeat as opposed to just all of the static photos that we had in the past. Before, our advertisement and our visuals, our moving visuals, were behind this wall of a really high price advertising agency or someone who could really do things. But we have the power now with this in our hand to be our own editors, to be our own curators of content. So this gives you a really great opportunity to really dial it in because you have the power to do it yourself and to iterate and figure it out. And then be able to best communicate with whoever that you're working with. You can actually give them an example instead of saying like, oh, well, I wanted it this way or that way. Hey, I made this reel and I kind of liked it. Can you make it better? Those are the things that you can really build on. What can they expect from your brand when visiting? Track the response ratios, data. A big suggestion for everyone is best as possible is to just, as you start, just keep an eye on data. Even if you don't really know how to analyze it, just start tracking it anyway, because then as you go along and you start to build a team around you, there's going to be someone that's going to love that data and is going to be able to give you really great insights on that data that you may not have been able to do. So just start tracking things. And Instagram, and a lot of these social media platforms, Instagram in specific, they have great tools. They have great tools to be able for you, to be able to track that over time. So definitely keep that in mind with your newsletters, open rates, click rates. That's really important. Just being able to see like who's doing what, because that, again, your customer is going to ultimately be your North Star. You're your North Star when you start about what you want, but it's going to come down to what the customer wants. And sometimes it is not what you think it is. And I think when you start to look at brands over time, especially ones in the beginning, they really turn around and do different things because like, wow, this is what you guys want. And you never, sometimes it's unexpected. So again, keeping that North Star to be able to move with the ebbs and flow of your customer is super important. Let's see here, what else? Let's talk about in-person experiences for those that this applies to. Really important. Now that we're out of like the COVID fog, get outside, get out in the streets with your product. There is nothing better than social proof of other people. You cannot be a prophet in your own land. I am so sorry. It really comes better from other people. Word of mouth, just, oh my God, this is great. Collect those things, collect those reactions. So if you don't have an event on your own, go to other events, be able to hop in possibly with, a small conference or something and say, hey, I'll bring 50 of these for free, or, oh, I'll bring this for a discount, or I'll bring like a small sample sizes. Just be able to always like have things. And then when you are working on, again, depending upon what your project is, for example, Belinda, understands the pain point of education. Maybe there's an opportunity for your product line to be integrated in, some type of cooking class or some type of like cooking lecture. Like, how do we get people out and engaged? Because collecting that data and collecting, being able to collect just the content that you'll be able to then drip out over time. You don't have to throw it all out on your social media, but then you have these things like, wow, these are people enjoying the product and engaging with the product. So if you have an opportunity in the product to do things in person, as much as possible is super important. Let's see here. Next, brand launch, super important step in just announcing your kickoff and marketing. All of these are going to be different times, and then sometimes it might some of these might compound into each other. It really depends on your timeline and everything else that's going along. I know a lot of that has to do with time, it has to do with money, it has to do with product, but the soft launch is really great. You test what the market is responding to. Again, that potential customer base tends to be more forgiving in the soft launch of your brand. Again, that customer base, they are tying into the brand. They like the brand, they like you. Right. And so in the beginning, again, you really have to know who you are, what you're bringing to the table, because you don't have this long lineage of, product success of what you have. So it really, really depends on, wow, I like you. I like your vibe. I like, what you're thinking about. I like the pain points that you're trying to solve. All of that comes into play. So really keep that in mind. Again, with friends and family, a lot of times friends and family and soft launch, that can be combined into one. It just really depends on, how you're moving. This is where things start to become official, invite them to the event or the space or send out products, just go and just get feedback. And you're really look for your friends that are really not going to hold back. What is this? What is this? What is this? Why doesn't this work? Like you really want that, because a lot of times people, oh my God, this is great. You never know. When I used to work in restaurants, one of the biggest things was that, you come to the table, how's everything? It's fine. And what I learned from, when I was really coming up, like the main chef, I learned right off the bat, check plates. Because a lot of times people, we aim to please. And so you look at the plate and this person just said they liked everything, but then, wow, they did not touch the potatoes, So you have to be able to really look at and be really dialed in and sensitive to just the responses that people are giving and dig a little deeper. Again, that starts with yourself. That starts with understanding yourself, the universe. You can understand these little things that are coming along and to pick up on those subtle clues of how people are really working. And then you're able to iterate that. Industry launch. With the industry launch, again, I like to add a couple of industry people to friends and family launches, because you also want just a personal but professional perspective. So find those people, that you really, really, really trust, to be able to have a front seat, because also those folks can really help to just push things forward, and a lot of times professionally, when people are invested in the beginning, those kind of close friends and people, again, they're going to help to push you through, the potential, no, it's not even potential, it's always dark times, it's up and down, to push through that process. So yeah, your influencers and press, all of those people, some of those should be some friends and family people. A well thought out experience. Again, these different activations will be super important. And then, your grand opening. You should have everything full service, brick and mortar. And then from there, that's when you just start to iterate, put it all out. And then the process is just going to kind of go over and over and over again as you continue to iterate your product. So what ends up happening is that, hey, I just came out, for example, Tracy, okay, we've got peanut butter cookies. We started with that. Oh my God, everyone loves the peanut butter cookies. Oh my God, everyone loves the chocolate chip cookies. Guess what? When people love things, they're just like kids. What's next? What's more? So you're going to end up going through this process over and over and over again with every iteration, with every new product entry, with every new rebranding. You're going to soft launch it. And it's just going to become more and more of like a thing that you kind of customize, right? So again, the soft launch might lean a little bit more into the friends and family launch, or it might not be as long of a soft launch. It's really fast. Or it's like, okay, we're just going to do the friends and family and industry. So keep that in mind. This is a constant cycle as everything grows. Oh, we've got a new flavor formulation. Run it back and start, and and keep that counsel. You know what I mean? Keep that counsel of people that you can continue to go back to, because they're growing in their opinions, and their outlook on what you're doing just as much as you are. So keep those core people. Let's see, networking and relationship building. Fun. Relationships are everything in business. It really is. You got to get out there. I'll tell you a really amazing story that is just has to do with this. I was at Jocelyn. You probably will be working with Jocelyn. She had a launch for, she had a party for Todo Verde here in LA. And Valeria was there, Jocelyn was there. And, this was right after COVID started opening up everything. So no one had seen anybody. So we're like, oh my gosh, how's everything going? And Valeria said, what's new? How's Superfood School? I'm like, oh, everything's cool. I'm advising now for a ghost kitchen startup. And she goes, oh, wow, are you advising? Yeah, I said, yeah. She said, oh, wow, okay, good to know, good to know. We kind of kept talking and going on. And then we ended up, having this link between this show that's on HBO that we really like. And we bonded over that. And then, I don't know, the next week, she sends me a message like, hey, I picked up that you were advising with this other, company, we've got Season Accelerator. This is what's going on. It's relationships, it's relationships, it's relationships. And it's also bigger, right? It's bigger than just talking business. Again, we're talking about an HBO show. It's not necessarily what you think. I'm a runner. I'll talk to people. I'll get deals done just by talking about running, right? So you don't want to be too hard and heavy, especially if you're out and you really want, oh my God, I want to talk to this director. Just be cool. You keep that coolness and don't be so forward, and just really be a cool person, because again, people are not only buying into the product, they haven't had the product yet. They're buying into you first. So they have to like you, right? So being intentional, super important. Again, connect with an influential people that reflect your avatar, because that's a really easy way to just have conversations and to be able to iterate on what you're thinking. Don't ever get caught in the always asking mode. Just be. Again, very zen, just be. Everything will really come to you. Again, it's about knowing what you want in your North Star, and you'll see it coming. Show that you also support their needs. That's a big thing for me. When I have an ask, I start with a give. Hey, is there anything that you need help with? Like, hey, I'll send over some food samples, or I'll talk to someone about something. Have that ask and that give, hand in hand. And it takes time too. There's again, I've known Valeria for a while. We've known each other. Just you've been really consistent. Everything's been great with Superfood School. I can see you see that, and not every relationship. Again, it's like romantic relations. Not everything. We were friends first, or we saw each other, but I was with this other person, and everything comes along. So it takes a lot of patience. Again, your inner core. All of this is gonna really work over time, and be confident and professional, and follow up. When I tell you, a lot of folks just don't even follow up. Follow up is so important, and follow up quickly, and then continue to follow up with folks. Hey, checking in, what's going on? For example, this week, I'm going down all of my social media networks. Why? Because I just updated my personal website with everything, with all of my assets. That's just another opportunity to talk to people. So once you have this big thing of folks, again, you're continuing to launch the relationship and soft launch with every new project, with every new iteration, and you can continue to keep it going. Because here's the thing, everyone is caught up in their own world, and you think that everyone's thinking about that. They're not. They're thinking about their own stuff. Even my mom sometimes will look at my social media and say like, hey, you did that? I'm like, Mom, that's actually just like a repost from like last year. Even your mom can't even keep up with stuff. So again, continue and hit folks over the head all the time with things. Q&A, that concludes everything. If you all have any questions at all, I'm going to stop the screen share so that I can see your lovely faces. Let's see here. Oh yeah, the next thing is the group session. We'll be sending you all information about that. And yeah, drops mic. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, rants, raves, all that good stuff?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So with the brand launch, I wonder if you could maybe talk through some recommendations and suggestions for, because this is seemingly like a service or like more brick and mortar kind of focused, where mine is the product that I'm doing is just like a CPG product, if you will. So what could be, and then like I'm focusing on e-com. I'm not even really necessarily doing like wholesale sales. I'm just going to focus on e-com. So what are some things that I can think about in like a digital space that's similar to, because I really loved that sort of kind of like timeline of like the soft launch with the friends and family and whatnot. That could kind of, you know what I mean? Like live side by side, but maybe in a virtual world.
Okay, so you're more speaking about the brand launch from a virtual e-commerce perspective. Okay, so one of the things that's going to be really important, and I think for you in specific, and I think you're tackling this already because I have written down here the learning content. Education is going to be a really big thing with your brand launch, and for all e-commerce brand launches, especially if it's a very specific product. Letting people know like what the product is, and I think for you, seeding would be really good, and just getting the product in a couple of people's hands that will be able to, record the content and work on other things like that, and to see how it works. And then you can create reels and create products. Create campaigns and things from there. I think another thing that's really important is, even though it is e-commerce, get out someplace, like go in the kitchen with a couple of people and create content and do things. People want to see other people doing things. For those that have children, why is Ryan like the richest person on YouTube? And like basically like we're paying all this advertising money, and the boy's just opening up, unboxing toys. And you start to look at that. People want to watch other people doing things. People want to watch other people engaging with your product, right? And so even if it is a completely, it's a digital process that you're having, again, get your product out there. If you even have to go and do it yourself, you can even do, maybe like a little cooking circle. If you've got like a counter, invite 3 people over and start playing with it, and then create that content, and you've got like a few weeks worth of content, and then other people are going to be inspired to create UGC, which is user generated content for you. So really don't think that just because you don't have a brick and mortar, like this is your brick and mortar. So, but we're still here as human beings. So I think no matter what your product is, you still need in-person engagement with the product as much as possible, and to be able to create a story and stuff around that. So yeah. Anyone else?
I'll go ahead and share and maybe ask a couple questions. So yeah. Currently I have something I've been going through. I have my personal Instagram, and then I have my Cuties Kitchen, which I've been using to just create fun content. And I haven't been so active on it due to school and pursuing, getting a structure down. But I recognize the loss of engagement when I did that, right? So and this is me being transparent, because of I've just been focusing on sharing on my stories, and I see, wow, I'm getting so much. And then when I go back to my post, it's a little less, right? And I'm having trouble understanding.
And this is for Cuties.
Yes, for my Cuties Kitchen. And
okay.
I'm barely starting. It's very micro. And I felt a little like, oh man, that's a real thing. It's a real thing when you're not consistent. And, I was doing some of the reels and getting really good traction on that. And it was difficult for me. You mentioned the data, right? Understanding that and analyzing that. And it's a little bit difficult for me to understand that. I was trying to see, okay, I noticed that on this time and this day, there were more likes, or I forget what they call it when people have interactions.
Impressions or interactions.
Impressions, yeah. There you go. So I'm ready to reintroduce. I have a lot of ideas, but I do want to do something with that. I like what you said, the branding launch. And is that when you have a more secure, like this is the name, and you kind of go into it where you're using the active Instagram account and you go into a new one, or you use that current one and say, hey, I'm going to start making videos and start sharing this process that I've been in. So people can already, oh, wow, she's getting ready to start having a foundation, an actual business, and kind of bring them along that journey. You think that's appropriate, or is that too like transparent?
Okay, here's the thing. Basically what you are describing is what's called building in public. That's a choice, right? So not everyone, for various reasons, not everybody can build in public because, well, what could happen if you build in public. So it really depends on what your product is and, who your customer is. Because again, like if they're not there to even kind of accept, or even, if they're not there to even accept what you're doing, then it doesn't really apply to them. So look at your customers, look at for example, if you do like a product or service for catering, if you're like a LA based caterer, so much that you're going to be able to do anyway. You don't need to, everyone thinks, oh, I need to talk to all the people, I need to do all these things.
Exactly.
But if you're just a LA based, right? So someone asked me the other day, like when we launched the taco catering, like, oh, is it blowing up? I'm like, it's a LA based catering. Like, what do you think this is going to be right now?
Right.
It's not going to be like some huge.
Okay.
So again, knowing who you are and knowing who your customer is. So I'll give you a great example of a company that has built in public and they have such a good time and they're doing such a great job. It's called Midday Squares. Midday
Okay.
Squares is a chocolate snack company, and they are so much fun. If you go to their Instagram, like it'll be them in the factory going crazy because they screwed up 11,000 logos. They put it all out there,
Wow.
But again, it depends.
I love it.
It depends on. Yeah, it's great. They've got like a huge following. They're doing super great. And it's working for them. It's 3 of them. It's a husband and a wife and then the brother, and they're cussing and screaming. This person's doing this and doing that, but it goes along with the brand. So not to say it needs to be craziness. If you're building in public, you can build in public, and it's a little bit more, hey, what do you think about this logo? But all it has to do with like what your entire market share is, you know what I mean? And your competition and everything around you, because as you're building in public, other people are taking notes and getting inspired.
Yeah.
So you want to keep that thin, you got to keep that thin line. Again, knowing where you're going, knowing who you are, and saying like, okay, I can afford to put this information out. You got to figure out what you can afford to kind of
Like
put
what
out based
information
on
to put out and what just to keep behind doors. Like the legal
yes,
stuff
and it's
for sure.
Yeah, for 2 reasons. It's based on how rooted you are in this, right? How rooted you are in what you're putting out. Like, no, this is the logo, this is because if you start going flim flam, then people can't really hold on and to be able to share, like, what was the name before? Oh, you changed the logo. Oh, you changed that. Or you changed this, right? So for you, making sure that it's strong enough for you to move forward. And then also B, for people that could potentially like rip you off, right? You have to keep that in mind. My first food business was at 11 and it was Rice Krispie treats before there was Rice Krispie treats. And I was doing it for like, I don't know, 6 months. And my best friend in like 5th grade totally ripped me off. And she only lasted 2 weeks because her product wasn't good. And the branding and the emotional connection that I had with my customers, which is my friend and the principal, right? It was already there. So it was done with hers. You know what I mean? So it's a prime example of like, hey, you can't even trust your best friend. So who are you going to trust out here in the streets, right? So make that balance. Find that balance. All right. I think Belinda, you had your hand up? Hey, what's up?
Hi. Just going into that. First of all, that was a great everything that you said. I have some takeaways, but I won't divulge everyone. So about branding, branding versus, and I'm sorry, I'm driving right now. Branding versus someone mentioned about like with me, like suggested that I do an avatar of myself. I am listening to other people that has knowledge that, that I don't have, but trying to also discern, and like trying to separate like what's what. So I'm glad that we're here at this point, but what are your thoughts about, doing an avatar of yourself? And I'm seeing like these signature brands, like I'm just seeing, I don't know, just different marketing tools or brand logos. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Logo. So like I have my logo, but yeah, it's like, okay, well, what is your logo? Like, what is it telling the people? What does it say? Like I had to explain what it is. What are your thoughts about creating a caricature of yourself for your brand versus?
Okay, so you just had a key kind of like offhand comment. I have to explain. You're not going to be around every single solitary customer of yours to like, hey, so this is what it means. So that's like the first thing. You have to make it as easy and clean cut as possible. So like if it's too complicated, again, think about you. If it's too complicated, like I can't do this. I can't do that. Oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go back to whatever it is. So like if someone has to think too much, they ain't thinking. That's it. You know, so you want to make it super easy and super, super, super clear, super clear. So no explanation. The only explanation is an explanation that once they get deeper into the education process. But like that first glance of your product and your branding and everything, that should speak very specifically to a certain type of avatar. And then from there, when they want more information, right? But in the beginning, you can't be explaining in the beginning. Afterwards, oh, well, what about this or what about that? So make sure that, you know, your logo and your branding and everything is very, 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 you know, clear and direct. And from an artistic perspective, I'll say this: if your logo isn't maybe where you want it to be, or you don't have one yet, then you better make sure that tagline is on point, because again, that is the vocabulary around the visual logo. You know what I mean? Like that's that vocabulary, like, hey, more plants on your plate, all diets welcome. That's the logo. That's it.
Right.
You know, you've told anybody. And you know, there's so many different ways to kind of put logos. And when you start to look, and it's a great exercise for you guys to kind of do. And this is another thing that I do in the one-on-one sessions, where you just look at different logos that have been around since, you know, the past few decades, and how some of them are very specific towards what the actual product is. Like a great example is FedEx. I was like today years old when I realized there was like an arrow in the FedEx logo. You don't even realize it. Wow, I didn't really realize that, but that is signifying, hey, speed. We're getting your package from point A to point B. So there's a lot of subtle things. There's colors. You know, it doesn't have to be so obvious, right? It really depends on what it is. For example, if you're doing like a high-end product, it might be a way to be able to just kind of signify that. For example, you think about like Gucci or like Tom Ford, it's like black and just a very strong, bold typeface, but like that, you know, that simplicity and that color and that's enough. That's money. That's all that is. You know, you don't necessarily need, I have a healthy food company, I got to put a leaf. Maybe not. You know, maybe it just needs to be green. It really depends. So again, all of these things come into play when you're starting to build just the vibes for everything, you know, and they're all interconnected. That's why you need to kind of do it all together, because then you might figure out like, hey, if my tagline is this strong, maybe I don't have to make this part like so obvious, right? But at the end of the day, that logo is the very first thing that people are going to see. So you want to make sure that it's as, you know, clear and concise as possible, and not too complicated. Because another thing is that you want to start to think about what else you could do with the logo. Maybe you want to do hats, maybe you want to do merch. You know, that's another thing that you can kind of consider depending upon what your product is. So for example, if you're brick and mortar, you can do hats for your business, like, oh, and make it like cute. There's a girl before in the cohort before, Avocado Mama Taylor. It's a super cute, you know, logo. And I said, hey, you need like hats or stickers or stuff. She says, yeah, that's a good idea. You know, so keep that in mind. Your logo might be able to be a product within itself, right? So that's a factor.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome. All right. Anyone else? Questions? I mean, we still have like 20 more minutes. So we can like kind of go over things. I can kind of like help workshop stuff. That's one of the reasons why I kind of went a little fast, because it's such a small amount of people that we can kind of go through some stuff. Did you raise your hand again, Belinda?
I did, and I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to kind of close on that with the logo, because Heaven and Earth, that was the original name years ago. Then it was Heaven and Earth's Personal Chef and Catering, because that's what I do. So that spoke very clearly. And then now recently, the past couple of years, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it Heaven and Earth's Purpose Kitchen, right? So, and then my tagline is cook, eat, thrive with purpose. Because what you're cooking and what you're putting in your mouth is what's going to help keep you thriving. And then that's part of the education. So I don't know, maybe that is too long. I don't know. What's your thoughts as for, you know, from your professional standpoint? I mean, I can always change it. And I added that Purpose Kitchen for for looking into the future of having an educational kitchen with cooking classes and for the community and educating, families. So that was the reason for adding, not just, oh, you only do catering, or oh, you only do da da da. Like, it's more broader.
Yeah. And the name of it is Heaven and Earth
Purpose Kitchen. And because of the it is intentional cooking. I don't just cook with anything. I don't just it's very intentional. It's very functional products that I use, or herbs and essential herbs in plants, so I want to be very conscious, and people know that I'm not just giving you any conventional or just anything. Like, this is they may ask me to, prepare something with a specific ingredient. I'm like, no, I don't do that. And you mentioned something about that, about kind of like knowing your audience, and but moving with what they're looking for. Because I think you kind of say something in the vein of I made like, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm preparing, but then you find out like, oh, you guys, that's what you want now, like tapping into what are they wanting. So how do you
you just
how do
get
you
out
look?
there, you keep
Yeah.
and people keep telling you, and you see it. That's why it's so important to get started and get something out there. We sit in this like weird phase, and the interesting thing is, it's like when I do workshops like this, when I work one-on-one with people, you're talking to yourself, because not every it's a two-way street. So everything that I'm saying are the things that I have to continue to remind myself, like every day, like when like, oh man, hey, wait a minute, you know how this works, right? So here's the thing. We get so caught up in analysis paralysis, and we get so caught up in making things perfect, or having it, get it out there and get it going. Because you see a lot of times, sometimes you'll see like products or different things, and it's out there. You're like, man, my stuff looks better than that, but it ain't out there. That person just got it out there. They got like a craft label, and not to say that that's okay. It depends. Again, it really depends. But all that to say is, out here are popping with like a craft label, and they're in Erewhon, and it's going right. And you have to find that balance of like getting it out and getting it going, because it's a really good product. It comes down to the taste. No one's going to care what the logo looks like if it's not good. They're not going to say anything. That'll get them in the door, but what's going to keep them continuing to buy? And that's a really big thing you have to keep in mind. You're looking for repeat customers. When you're thinking about investors, they're not thinking about one-offs. They need the person that's coming back every month. For example, Janet, probably Jasmine, you guys got a subscription thing maybe in the back of your head. That's how you're going to get your investment, and that's how you're going to get your money, and that's how you're going to also really be able to forecast like what you can do and what you can't do. So you need that person that is there every single solitary like week, or whatever the purchase cycle is for your product or service, right? That's the go-to, because those are the people that are this is what they're also going to do. They're going to keep, they're going to help keep you in business, but then they're also they're essentially your avatar. So what you need to do is you need to get things out as much as possible. So then your avatars, they're right there. They're growing with you. Like, wow, I've been using this product for 6 months. That's the person. And so when you get feedback and data from this person, your imaginary avatar becomes real once you get that product out there and going. And it's the cycle, it starts to cycle through. Everything needs seasons, right? Seasons for all relationships. And that's super important. Like, hey, what's going on right now in April is not going to be the same thing for back to school or for Christmas. That's a completely different conversation. That's a completely different thing. And when you're doing different products, like that's a completely different, product cycle. So getting the seasons with products, oh, wow, we actually have a really big spike in August. I didn't know. And you look at the data, or you kind of feel, wow, I didn't know that whatever this is in relation to your business, wow, that's happening then. Right. So again, getting it out and getting those seasons with things is really, 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 really important. seasons. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, Beatrice, you said such a simple but cool ideas that you can have benefit that can roll out. But when you start to think about all the bright, shiny objects with stuff, at the end of the day, that product has to be completely on point, because if that doesn't work, nothing else is going to save you. Nothing else is going to save you. So you have to really focus hard on that. I think in this new day and age, it's much easier to be a one-person show, especially with this AI now. And I think that that's a really good thing for us. But I say all that to say is I remember I had a friend and she does PR. And a lot of folks you'll kind of see with brick and mortars in specific, we have this idea, and that comes from just the media, of that, like, to have a successful, what a successful business looks like, or, you know, what a business looks like, you got to have like a staff, you got to have an office. That's all overhead that you don't necessarily need. But these are things that feed into our ego and our, you know, imposter syndrome, or this feeling of like, oh, I don't look like a real business because I don't have an assistant. Do you really need an assistant? Or is this just your ego trying to like really tend to these people who may or may not even buy your stuff anyway? You know what I mean? So like, keep that in mind of all of these other extra things. I had a friend, and she's not an entrepreneur. She like works, I think she like works for Apple or something. She had this idea for a business. This girl spent thousands of dollars on all of the business registration, all the legal stuff, all the stuff. She didn't even really have a product. Why? Because that made her feel like she had a business or had something going, but you don't even have the product. The product is the business always. And iterating on that is super important. I know people that don't even have trademarks, don't even have things together yet, but they have that business, they have that product, and it's going and it's moving. Then you can take that money and that data and to be able to kind of, you know, move it around. I mean, prime example, I have another package business that me and some partners are working on for about like a year or so. And it started off, my nickname growing up when I was doing my food stuff was Netta. So I think at first it was called like Netta Goods. And we looked it up and it didn't have a trademark thing, but about a month or two later, we found that like Netta Goods was like a Black hair care product company. I'm like, okay, I don't want to mess with that for sure. Actually, I want to buy. So I want to go ahead and find another name. So we go through the motions, So then we end up with Nam Netta. And now that's legal. Now everything is kind of set up. And we thought it was a clear runway. And then a few months later, as we're building everything, I go into Erewhon and there's a new product. And it's very similar to the product and it's got the word Nam in it. And I'm like, oh no, now we've got to go back through the process. So there's things that are going to happen that you can change, you know, but then there's things like, hey, there's a new product that is out. And now you have to kind of figure out how it works. A big thing, the way we came up with Nam Netta actually was a friend of mine, because she said that one of the things that's really helpful with if you're not gonna come up with a name that is really easy for SEO, like you have to find that really thin line between something that could really be helpful for SEO. It really depends on, you know, obviously your budget and product, but make it stupid. Like Lululemon, Google, those are like made up weird names. So that's how we kind of came up with Nam Netta, because it's so ridiculous. It becomes its own thing. And you don't have to think about whether or not it's going to necessarily be a name for someone else, right? So that's something to kind of keep in mind. It becomes its own thing. So yeah. Anyone else? Drop mic. We got like 10 more minutes if anybody has anything.
I guess I'll share some ideas that I had around branding. I mean, I've always been really into the idea of branding. So a lot of times I come up with a lot of branding ideas, but like there's no business behind it. But for third gen, it kind of evolved a lot from what it used to be. But essentially, I realized that third gen comes from where I sit culturally in in my upbringing. So my grandmother was born in Haiti. My mom was born in the US. I was born in the US. So I'm third generation of immigrants. And culturally, I grew up in Haitian and Caribbean culture, but in America. So not in Haiti. And so the way I approach those foods and like have eaten those foods, like it's a different experience than I would have if I lived in those countries. And I feel like that has its own place as well. So I wanted to kind of create like the branding and the tone of my business. It has a lot to do with like home and nostalgia. And then kind of like building community that's it's like I'm an other in my own way. I'm not like completely American, but I'm like I'm like a mix of a lot of different things. So that being said, I really wanted to create dinner parties that kind of go along with these, like that kind of centered around these like sauces and spice and sauces and condiments. So that the ways that I ate them at my home. So kind of bringing people together around different dishes that incorporate these condiments. Also, oh, wait. Oh, okay. Something happened with my screen. I thought I lost y'all. But and then also creating recipe cards so that people have, or just like that, whether they live in person or online, that people can then learn how to use the condiments and sauces in ways that I've used them, like I use them and how I also use them growing up.
Okay. Quick question about your spices. Are these all kind of geared, are they kind of like Haitian spices in sauces, like
Yeah.
specifically for Haiti?
Yeah. So pickles is one of them, which is a spicy pickled cabbage and carrot condiment. And like the base of it is like Scotch bonnet pepper and vinegar. Another one is going to be pepper sauce, which is just a hot sauce. And then a green sauce, which is like usually used as a marinade, but can also be used as like a dipping sauce or anything really. Like it could be used similar to the way a chimichurri is used, just depends. But those are the three products that I have currently.
Okay. The first things that kind of come to mind, like what just brain dump really quickly is just like, I think about third gen, and then I think about where you're at with Haiti, but then I also think about like the potential expansion into just other things and like other cultures if you wanted to do that. But one of the things I just think with like marketing for you, it's really important for you to tap in to the Haitian community, because these are going to be the folks that are going to really push this forward. And some of the ways that you can kind of do this with social media and branding is like, I love doing through like memes, Haiti culture. It doesn't, we think it has to be about the product, but it has to be the culture. You're creating a culture around the product. So, maybe you're sharing, even maybe in the background, it's there's a Haitian rapper that's super dope. I think Mosh Hami, maybe. I don't know, you might not know him, but maybe you're using but you're using like, new Haitian like hip hop music or something in the background or something, or you're incorporating like some type of joke about kids from Haiti that live in the United States. All of these little memes and all of that can kind of go into your stories and into like literally your IG stories, but then also your story. And that's going to really emotionally connect to your core audience, which are the people that are most familiar with the product that you have, which would be, Haitian people, Haitian background, Haitian immigrants. And then other than that, you're tying into just like foodies and gourmands that are going to go for anything that's new and exciting and tasty because they want to have this new feeling. Then from those two people, that's when Gen Pop and everyone else is going to come around, because those two are going to be your influencers. You know what I mean? So really tap into the culinary aspects, of it, to make it really exciting for folks that just want to play and explore and they got the time to do it. And then also for that foundation of your Haitian family, because they're gonna, you know how it works. Like everyone has their own little tribes. It's like, man, I know this girl Jasmine. She said, oh yeah, and oh wow, that's cool. You'll have someone from like the Haitian Alliance of XYZ come and want to either support or put you on a podcast or give you some grant money or something, just whatever the case may be. So really tie into that emotion and culture of really who you are, because it's a very specific product of what you have. You know, think about the third gen kids. And then what I'm saying, when you potentially want to maybe expand into something more, then it's third gen kids everywhere. That's a whole culture. I'm not a third gen kid, but I know a lot of them. And it's just like, hey, that's the thing about where you go to school, what your parents want from you coming to this country, going back to the other country, hanging with people that not living in the new country. All of that can kind of come through your story and the way that you engage and the way you story tell through the captions, through everything, and have fun with it. You know, have fun and really connect. I think that would be, that's just me kind of like just brain dump really quickly from what you said.
Thank you.
Just workshopping it. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, 5 más minutos.
Practicing the Spanish, huh?
Oh man, yeah. That's the closest. I used to live in Mexico for years, so that's the closest third gen I got. So I got a little bit. But again, you know, prime example, I had a friend reach out to me to consult because with Tecate, because I lived in Mexico for so long and was doing wellness. And he's like, okay, you actually know what's going on there to be able to discuss what we're trying to do here with these customers with this new like healthy beer. I know the way that the language and stuff. So again, use what you have. Everything is in front of us. It's right in front of us. We don't need to reach. What we need to do is examine further the contacts and the, you know, ideas and stuff that are right here. We know we have this idea that everything needs to be far flung. Like, no, that's just to create problems. Really, everything is in front of us. That means you're not looking good enough. And a big thing is, you know, those gut feelings. And we'll get into like with like the wellness stuff. That's going to be a really exciting part. You probably guys can already tell that will be like a lot of good woo-woo stuff. But yeah, it's really about tapping into who you are, and all of that will then start to cascade, you know, and leaving yourself open also for moving, you know, moving and grooving into who you are as a person. You know, you're going to grow as an entrepreneur, you're going to grow as a person, but then you're also on the other side growing as, you know, a wife or a girlfriend or a mother or aunt or a partner, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And those need to be able to move together, because that is a full life. We're not supposed to have these fragmented lives, you know, no matter what people may think. Like, it's really important for all of that to come together. For sure.
Amen.
So,
I love that.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. Belinda, I had a quick thought for you. Because you said like, oh, is it too long? Maybe. And then when I started thinking about what you're saying, use the word intention. Heaven and Earth Purpose Kitchen. When you think about that word, all of that together, and then you also think about potentially, like, again, how you can get your title, your branding, everything might need to be just Purpose Kitchen, because that is literally to, hey, this is purpose, this is intent. Heaven and Earth, your customer might not even believe in heaven and earth. Like, you don't even know, but a purpose in the kitchen, everyone has a purpose in the kitchen. Now, whether or not they have the purpose or they about to have somebody else have the purpose in the kitchen and pay them for the purpose. So that operative, you know, it's operative and descriptive 2 words that are very quick and easy that, you know, say kitchen, food, kitchen, purpose, that tells what the intention and stuff is. So that's just food for thought for you to kind of think about, because it is quite a long name. But yeah, that's something to kind of put on your mind and to kind of look up. Another thing that you guys can think about when you're starting businesses and different things, really quickly, this is super important. And one of my mentors, when I really started out, was a big thing when I started moving, you know, out of the arts and entertainment industry and moving into food, is Google AdWords. So at the end of the day, this is a free thing to do it. Everyone's got a Google account. If you go into Google AdWords, you can go to keyword finder and keyword search. So this is a great way to be able, this is almost beyond the trademark. This is almost beyond, you know, looking at whether or not you can get the name in www.com. This comes down to actually what people are searching for and how they're searching for it in relation to your product, right? And so a lot of times, to even validate an idea is a good way of doing this. Like, wait, how many people are searching for this? oh, millions of people are searching for it. If millions of people are searching for it, you're then like, okay, you know what? Then that means I need to make sure to niche down. That means you really got to make sure to niche down, because again, no one wants, and it is impossible for someone to have the entire market share. Like that's one of the biggest things that you find on Shark Tank. A lot of people go on Shark Tank and they get their dreams too quick, and they don't have the infrastructure to be able to support the huge influx of people now from all over the country. You get your dreams too fast, that'll actually collapse your business. You would rather have customers, you know, just slowly moving and you being able to provide the best service, as opposed to now you went and called your friend and got you on the news because your grandmother thinks it's cool on the news, and now your business is collapsed because now all these people can't even get what you want, you know? So think about that. If it's a million, you want to niche down into what works. However, if you go into the Google search and it's like 500 searches, then you probably need to find another business, right? So you want to find that sweet spot, right? In between, and that's a whole nother thing, you know, when I'm working with people one-on-one, like being able to kind of workshop, you know, the right number to kind of go into, because it's not the biggest number and it's not the smallest number. It's in relation to like other related terms that they're searching for, how they're searching for it, where they're searching for it. So that's a little bit of the workshopping, you know, that can be done, especially in the beginning when you're just starting a business, or then also when you are trying to and to pivot, you know, as this, again, it's constant iteration, constant iteration, just like us humans. So yeah. All right.
We are on time.
Yeah.
Any final questions or thoughts before we head out? Well, good. I would like to hear from Tracy and Emika on Thursday at 4 when we see each other. Just letting you know, guys.
Yeah, so you all have the worksheets, and like, you know, we will, you know, deep dive into this more. And yeah, just continue to iterate. And I know how it is. Like if you guys have any questions, here, I'll put my email address in the chat. Just in case, like, because I know how, did you have any questions? And then like you get away like, oh man, this is what I thought. So if there's something between now and Thursday, a quick question, just shoot it over to me for any clarification on anything that I said. If not, we will jam on Thursday.
Okay. Thanks, Lynnette. Thanks, everybody. See you on Thursday. Have a good day, guys. Thank you.
All right. Happy
Thank
Monday,
you.
y'all.
Nice meeting you.
Bye.
Yep.